Hi, I am Muhammad Hafiz. In this video, I'm going to talk about computer generations. So, knowing where you come from is really important for the future of your activities. So, likewise, if you take computers, knowing the evolution or the different generations of computers is pretty much important. Same as the generations that humans are having, computer generations comes in the basis of time periods where these computers have been segregated based on the advancement of the technologies being used in these computer systems. Initially, computer generations are decided based on the hardware technologies, but now these generations are decided later. These generations are decided by the complexity of technology in both hardware and software systems. So when we talk about computer generations, we mainly focus on five different generations. So the first generation that we consider has came into scene between 1946 to 1959. In these computers, the vacuum tubes have been the main line of electrical communication within these computers. So vacuum tubes are uh, electron tubes where the electrical pulse are being travel through between the hardware devices. So these have been the main source of electronic transmission for the memory and circuits of central processing unit of the computers. These tubes are similar to the light bulbs, and it had generated a huge heat. So controlling this heat or temperature has become a challenging and expensive task. So you need to have a better cooling mechanisms. Otherwise, the entire hardware or the computer hardware will go burst off. So due to this first generation computers have become more expensive and larger. And these first generation computers have been used only in large scale organizations, not for the personal users. In this generation, these punch card magnetic tapes have been used as input and output devices. And mostly the uh, machine language is used for the programming purpose and to feed different commands to these computer systems. Here you see some of the examples of the first gen computers. Here you see the computer called ENIAC in this the bottom one, which is electronic numerical integration and computer. That's what they call as. So this is a very powerful computer that they have in the first generation. Next, we have the UNIVAC computer. So in the right side, you see this is also a first gen computer, and this on the top it's IBM 650. So you see these computers are not fancy as what we have now. These are pretty large and highly mechanical and electrical. So there are a lot of technical gizmos in these computers. Second generation computers were evolved in between 1959 to 1965. This is where the transistors was used in the CPU. Transistors were used low electricity. So transistors actually, these are semiconductors. So you can see transistors in today these days as well. But those days transistors were totally different from what we have today. from the design perspective. So these semiconductors are used at low electricity and comparatively smaller than the first generation. So this became more reliable, and speed is much better. Transmission speed is much better than the first generation. And the magnetic tapes and the magnetic disks have been used as the input and output mechanism to feed commands into the system and get uh, output from the computer. So here you see some examples of second generation computer systems. So for these computers, mostly Fortran, COBOL programming languages was used. And if you take Fortran and COBOL, these are a kind of a high level, mid-level languages, and these are still being used in the industry for certain legacy systems. Mm. What you see here is some examples. So in the left corner, it's IBM 1620 model, and here it's CDC 1604. So CDC, they also have produced some similar to IBM. They are different corporation. They have produced some high-end computers those days. So what you see in the top right corner is CDC 1604 computer, and the bottom one, it's the UNIVAC 1108. The third generation computers were evolved between 1965 to 1971 period of time. So instead of transistors, these computers used the integrated circuits, ICs that we call. So in Sinhala we call as Ekabadda Paripata. So ICs have been used in these chips. So multiple transistors, capacitors, and transistors are included in these ICs. So let me show a sample of IC. Here you can see a sample of ICs that we have. So this having inside this, there are a lot of transistors and capacitors and resistors were used. Due to this, the computers became really small when compared to the previous two generations, and the efficiency and the reliability was pretty much high. And also the one of the main thing was like this allowed multiprocessing and multitasking, where the multiple or parallel works can be done in a single in the same time. So that is a really big advantage that the third generation had. And also the mostly high level programming languages was used, like Pascal, Basic, COBOL, kind of a programming language, which are pretty much high-end programming languages that we had, and this within this period in 1960s to 1970s. So some example computers are IBM 160. You can see IBM 160 in the left top corner, and also we had PDP, personal data process, or some people call this as programming data processors, which is also a powerful computer. In the right side, you see the Honeywell 6000. So these are the some examples from the third generation computers. The fourth generation evolved between 1971 to 1980, and it used a technology called VLSI circuits, very large scale integration. So it had millions of transistors inside this, and it's very powerful and very cost effective. So the revolution of personal computers came in this 4th-gen computers, because previously these computers were mostly used in industrial level. In this generation, mostly used programming languages are C, C++, DBase. So some of these languages are still very popular. In the fourth generation computers, there you can see some examples. Star, this the left corner, you can see PDP 11. Personal data processor is another product from PDP, and in the middle you can see the Star 1000. Star 1000 is from the same CDC company as well, so Control Data Corporation. The last one you can see, it's Cray 1. So mostly this the supercomputer concept has been introduced in the fourth generation. You can see these as I already mentioned. These generation computers are pretty much large than the computers that you see in today. So these are heavily mechanical and electrical. So those are not the simple UI that you see in today's generation computers. The final, the fifth generation, which is the last generation that we are going to talk about today in today's video, it started in 1980s. So until today, this generation is what is getting evolved. So in fifth gen, it's VLSI technology became ULSI. VLSI is the fourth gen technology, which is a very large scale integration, and it became ultra large scale integration. Due to this, these microprocessor chips being manufactured, that included these microprocessors included 10 millions of electronic peripherals inside this single chip. So that gave a heavy, powerful mechanical instrument for the fifth gen computers, and this supported multi-threading and artificial intelligence, which are more powerful concepts that was introduced in the fifth generation. And also it supports the high level and the latest technologies like C, C++, Java, .NET, likewise. So still we use these fifth gen computers because in most other recent computers also having microprocessors. So what we discussed was the main generations in the computer evaluation. These days we talk generations for laptops, tablets, phones, likewise for different devices. But all these are derived from this particular fifth generation computers, because we are still using this microprocessor concept introduced in fifth gen. And today these microprocessors are very much powerful than the one that was there in 1980s in the initial stage of this particular generation. That's all I want to discuss in this video. Thank you very much.